Okay, do you have any questions about what you've seen thus far? Questions, comments? You said you used one camera.
Yeah. And that's more, this is more broadcast kind of TV, right? Y'all might use multiple cameras, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Most people don't know, in the movie world, and more when you're doing film, it's pretty much always one camera. They may have a $100,000 camera, something crazy, but they still most of the time using one. And that's usually because of the lighting and different things you want to do with the lights. So when there you have more time to plan your shots, like the car scene we had, we set up 2 cameras. I had 2 shooting at once. I'm trying to think. No, we actually tried. We mounted the cameras inside, and everybody asked that because most of the time the camera will be too big to do that. But we mounted the cameras inside, so it was maybe one or two more scenes where we used 2 cameras. But usually, for instance, if I was shooting this classroom and I wanted to show y'all the cameras right here, the lights are going to be right here. And I may have 3 lights going and making sure y'all lit. So if I have a camera on that side too, then you're going to see the lights. So usually with film, you're using one camera, even on the big budget movies that you see. To warm them up first, I guess, let me just kind of go into how the movie started and how I got to this point, and then maybe that'll warm them up and then have something else to think about. But the idea of the movie actually started when I was in college, just like you all in undergrad. And I always tell people that story because I just changed my major. And Will said something about education, and I wanted to go in education or whatever at first. But I started out in management information systems, and everybody just talking about go for something like computers, you'll make a lot of money. So I started out in computers about management information systems about 3 years, and then found out I hated it and didn't want to do it. But writing was always what I loved to do, so I was about ready. I wasn't going to quit, but that's how I felt, like I didn't want to be there. And then the minute I changed my major to what I love to do, it was smooth sailing. So I love to write. And one of the first classes I had was a screenwriting class. And the final assignment for that class was to write the first 15 pages of a movie. I had no idea later on I would finish the movie, let alone direct it, act it, and all this stuff. It was just an assignment. So I picked it up years later. But the teacher's reaction to that movie was so strong. She really loved it and called me the next morning and, can I use it as an example? Let's read yours in class. So that told me I might be on to something. So a bunch of years later, I picked it back up, finished the script, met Will, ended up going to film school, and we decided to go ahead and do that. And he spoke to you about audio and a lot of the stuff. The post-production process overall was like a year and a half. After the fact, just a lot of stuff that I ended up having to do, but we shot it in like 3 weeks. So just actually being on the set shooting, it wasn't easy, I don't want to say easy, but that was the smooth part. That was 21 days, whatever. In and out, pretty much stayed on schedule. And it was a lot of work after that. So then, after sitting there editing it, trying to correct all the sound problems and smooth everything out, doing the music and all of that, then it's a whole entirely different process trying to shop it, trying to get somebody to pick it up. And like Will said, most of the time they tell you, well, nobody's going to pick up a first-time filmmaker stuff. Use this one just to get your name out there. And you run into a lot of that, but we was just blessed, that somebody saw what we saw and thought that it would be a good idea and something worth seeing. But he can talk more maybe to broadcast, and I'll talk more to film. Talk about what the ones who do more the TV classes, don't they?
Projects.
Well,
projects.
it's different. Even in the film department where I work, it's different with the actual seniors or whatever. They're not necessarily required to do senior projects, but what they do have to do there is like for production classes, and they have to produce projects within those classes. There's the intro to film class, which there are 3 projects they have to produce. They don't do those 3 projects. They have to be good projects. They don't pass the class. Intro, the second film class, same thing, 3 projects. You do the project and pass class. Cinematography class is the big class, and that's where they get to make like short films. They do it like in groups or whatever. And once again, you don't do your work, you don't pass the class. And he could probably tell you that's different for graduate students because as a graduate student, he was actually required to produce 2 short films to get, his degree as part of his,
Right, and actually, well, just to finish up kind of what he said too, the cinematography, the earlier production classes we did, like you said, the projects, they were more like come up with a simple scenario. Somebody going to the newspaper stand, putting a quarter in, buying a newspaper, how would you shoot it? So they would use something real simple to do like that, and just, so you focusing in more on camera angles, and things like that, and they would take it up a step. Exactly, storyboard and shot list was a big thing, and then it will bump up to, we'll come up with your own story, and how can you tell a story in, and I forget how many pages, the limit, so it seemed hard to do at first, in that short of a time, but it's good practice for telling a story, and we couldn't use any audio in those, so we had no dialogue, so we had to tell the story, and we couldn't mouth it or act like we were talking, so we had to come up with creative ways before you even worried about the audio. And the cinematography class he was talking about, we may do more lighting exercises. So we had exercises on how you shoot daytime in a house and make it look like night. So you may do things like garbage bag the windows outside, use different little lights to make it look like it's light shining through from street lights, different things like that. And then, like you said, as a graduate student, I had to do 2 shorts, a 5-minute and a 15-minute. And I tried to get them to let me do funeral arrangements as my project. They wouldn't let me. So the short part you saw with the character Russell, his flashback when he died, that part was really actually like my short, a part of the short that I turned in for my final project. And then I got the rest of the crew and everybody together and said, we're doing the whole movie. I don't know what they're talking about. That's going to be for this little grade, and let's go. Like, we're going to keep rolling.